Hi, my name is Sandy Zimmer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to make this card using the Botanical Shadows, the June stamp of the month, S2306. And we're going to use this stamp that's at the very bottom here. I love these trees. We're also going to use the Always Near stamp set, D2158, and this really nice sentiment. So that sentiment says, what was once enjoyed and deeply loved, we can never lose, for all that we love deeply becomes a part of us. So this is the Dreammaker paper collection, and it is currently available, but it is only available while supplies last. So it may or may not be available by the time I post this, but I just thought I would go through and show you it. So it has that marbled effect on one side and then plain color on the other side, and of course you get two of each. I love the colors in this paper pack, and I also really like that marbled look, so I really wanted to use that on this card and show you kind of a unique technique for just creating something different. So here we go. I'm using my Mitzi and I'm just putting in that stamp at the bottom there. And then I'm just going to add that sentiment in there as well. I love that the Misty has that grid on it, so you can tell if you've got everything lined up straight. So I'm just putting that on the hinge there and just making sure that everything fits on my paper the way that I want it to. I'm going to use my intense black ink to ink that up. And I'm going to do it a couple of times because I know with it being a really big stamp, sometimes it's hard to get a really good impression the very first time. So I've also created a tool that you're going to see me use here in a moment just to help me get a good impression. Just wiping the ink out of the way there. So this is actually from one of our blender brushes, and I've just put a little bit of cloth on the end of it so that it's doesn't have that Velcro on there anymore, and I just use that to rub it down in place. Now you'll see that I didn't get a great impression, and in a while here I realized that it's because when I put down that stamp there are some bubbles between the glass and the stamp itself. So it was a good thing that I put it on the Misty, because now I can sort of re-stamp that a couple of times and I can really push hard with that tool that I created. So it is a good idea to have a look at your stamps when you're putting them on to make sure that you don't see any bubbles before you stamp, because had I not put it on the Misty, I wouldn't be able to fix that, right? I think I show you once I get the Dreammaker paper in there. So I've got a really nice impression there. The Dreammaker, I'm also using a 4x5¼ piece here. And again, same procedure, inking that up really good. And then I'm going to close it up and use that tool to help me get a nice impression. So that turns out pretty good, but where that bubble is on those trees at the bottom there, that's where I'm not getting a good impression. So again, I'm just going to do it another time here and just make sure that I get it really, really good. Just going everywhere just to make sure. Still a little bit there, so I'm going to do it one more time. And give it a really good rub down. So there you can see the bubbles when I lift that up, and that's what was giving me the grief. So I should have really checked that to make sure that that was nice and secure before I went ahead and tried to stamp with it. Okay, so now I have two identical pieces here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up that Dreammaker one. And I'm just trying to figure out what the sizes are going to be. So I decide to go for a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to tear out, or pardon me, not tear out, I'm going to cut off a 1/4 inch, but I'm going to do a 1/2 inch on each end first. And then I'm going to cut out a 1/4 inch from each end. So I love this cut rail system because it really makes it easy for me to cut it. Now I thought I was going to be able to do this really well and cut that quarter off, but it didn't work very well. So then I decided to flip it upside down and cut that quarter out. And then I just keep flipping it back and forth depending on what I'm doing. So now I'm going to do a 1/2 inch, save that one, do a 1/2 inch on the other side, save that one. And then I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off of each side. And those are going to be the pieces that I discard. And you'll see in a moment here when I go to put it together why I did that. So now we're back to a 1/2 inch that I'm saving on each side. And then a 1/4 inch that I'm getting rid of on each side. And then I'm left with that piece in the middle, which is about a 1/2 inch. Just a tiny bit bigger, but that's okay. So those pieces at the bottom I no longer need, but I am going to use one of them as a spacer. So I'm just lining those up and making sure that my images match. That 1/4 inch I'm using as a spacer, so I flip it over just to help me see the difference between one and the other. And again, I want to make sure that my images match. So I just sort of dry fit it, pull that off, and then when I know that it's where I want it, I adhere it down securely. So again, I'm just going to keep going all the way across the card front here and doing that. So you'll see that my images from the Dream Maker match up perfectly with my images on that white daisy. So it's just kind of a fun way to create an interesting element on a card front. You could do this with, different colors. You could do it with all sorts of different things. You could color up the backgrounds if you wanted to. You could definitely do this on a layout. It would be a whole lot of fun to do on a layout as well. So I decided to start on the right-hand side there. I didn't quite have it all up high enough, so I'm just fixing that up and going at it again. And I'm going to use my 1/4 inch spacer. And then this is where you have to be really sure that you've got it straight because we're dealing with the words now and we want them all to make sense. So I sort of dry fit it and then I just move it over a teeny tiny bit just to make sure that the words all make sense. And then I just have that one last piece left. And I'm just going to put that one in. I'm not even going to worry about the spacer. I'm just going to line it up at the bottom with the trees and then with the words. So there it is. I love how that comes together. It's pretty cool. So now I'm just going to grab my little paper trimmer here and just trim off the edges just to make sure that everything is nice and flush. And then I'm going to back that on some black cardstock. Now originally I thought I was going to do the black the size of the card base, and then I decided I wanted to leave a little bit of white around the edge just to really make that pop. So I'm sort of putting it up in a corner here and I'm just putting a slight black edge all the way around. And I'm going to grab my paper trimmer and trim off the excess on those two sides so that I have the same amount of black all the way around. And I'm just going to put that on my card base and my card will be done. Of course, make sure you know which way your card's opening up. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a white edge all the way around there. And there you go. Well, that's it. Now I had gotten some ink on my finger before I even really started stamping, so I just thought I would draw a couple of little birds in there just to help sort of camouflage that a little bit. There's always a way to cover up our little mistakes. So there we go. If you're interested in these products, please go to sandyzim.closetomyheart.ca and make your purchases there. If you'd like to ring that bell, you'll get a message when I post something new. Give me a thumbs up to like, and if you could share with your friends, that would be great. The more people I have that visit this YouTube channel, the more benefits I have. Again, my name is Sandy Zimmer. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you.